hilarious. I wonder
Awesome.
why that is.
Yeah. And we'll just be amused.
Always.
Awesome. Well, welcome to anybody who's watching us laugh at ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
technology.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Stacia Sinisbet, founder of wooversity.com, and I'm a spiritual teacher and intuitive healer. And Marin and I are here today to tell you a bit about why people come to us for courses and healings, but we're really primarily going to focus on our new upcoming course, the Psychic Self-Healer program, which Marin is teaching, and it's going to be really exciting. But yeah, we wanted to come on and share just a little bit about why people find their ways to this work. And so, one thing that I hear so often from people when they learn about what we do, we might share, we help people understand their energetic boundaries so they don't take on so much that's not theirs. And I hear over and over from people like, wait, that's exactly what I need. How come I haven't known about this before? And we're here to tell you about it. So yeah, that is one of the big things we really help people understand is, whether you consider yourself empathic or not, a phenomenon happens where energy exchanges within ourselves and others in the collective, and we take on emotions that aren't ours. If our partner or someone at the grocery store is angry or upset, we might start to feel that ourselves. And it can become really overwhelming when you're not aware of it. I see us as like big sponges, and we can soak up feelings, even thoughts in the ethers that aren't ours. And then that can have physical effects on us, so in that overwhelm of sadness or anger that we're picking up from someone else, the more we pick that up, we might start to feel physically depleted, tired, exhausted. But then other things can happen where it comes on really suddenly that I get dizzy, or I have a ringing in my ears, or a stabbing in my shoulder. And that stabbing word sounds harsh. It's not meant to be harsh. It's just the sensation I'm feeling in my body when I'm aware of energy around me. That's not mine. There's things like energy cords where people are trying to communicate with me in the non-physical realm. So-and-so's thinking about me across the country. They haven't actually picked up the phone to call me or text me. And I might feel that energetically, like a little tap, tap, tap. And I think this happens to a lot of people. And for most people, the thought might go to, what's wrong with me, right? If we get dizzy out of the blue, or a really bad headache, or ringing in the ears. And of course, we want to make sure there's nothing physically wrong with us. But a majority of the time, once people learn energy awareness tools like we teach in our training, so energy awareness tools and an understanding and awareness of the unseen, that happens a lot less, even because we teach the energetic boundaries, so you're getting less waves of sudden dizziness. And so that when it does happen, you can be more sure, like, oh, maybe I should lay down and take a little rest or go to the doctor or whatever it is. You have more certainty and seniority over things like that, is what I like to call it. But with that, there is a piece around beginning to gain awareness of really your sense of well-being, and noticing that, hey, something's happening to me. Maybe it's not my energy. And so this is really what we're teaching in these programs, is ways to set those boundaries. But then it's super fun because then you get to explore and get even more curious with what's beyond that. So as you start to shed the layers, the baggage, the energy, everything you sponge up that's not yours, you get to know yourself more and more. And you learn about your own activations and triggers too. Like, I see those as little magnets, why other people's energy sticks to us more. And so it's a huge healing process. I think that when I first started these trainings, I was coming in because I wanted a bit of understanding of how to heal myself and not sneak or not look outside of myself so much for answers. Yeah. But I had no idea what I was getting into. I thought it sounded fun. Energy, intuition, psychic, clairvoyant. That sounded really cool and fun. but I had no idea the healing journey that I was about to go on. And in that same regard, I wouldn't change it for anything. Hi puppies, hey puppies. So that's just a little rant to begin, a little sharing. Lauren, what do you see or what do you want to share that you notice a lot of students come into the classes with that they want support around and they didn't even know that they could receive support around it, or just anything you want to bring up?
Yeah. To me, what you just shared, there's something about being able to decipher or to start giving or start paying attention to and giving some of the things that we easily ignore, like its due diligence, that part of the overwhelm and the burnout and the just busyness that I think a lot of folks are experiencing in different ways. I can really get trapped in that, or like
Yeah.
in a spiral in that, kind of like this dust bowl, just that can't stop sort of thing. And so to me, these tools also can create a space of pause and of getting even nitty grittier of what this actually is. So you might have a headache because you have a headache or a migraine that is legitimately a physical manifestation or physical thing that's existing. But what is cool about energy tools in our class also, that it can find and potentially parallel, like, oh, but it's also more than just that.
Yeah.
It's also maybe a manifestation of fear or resistance or of from in various ways. I think I've shared a couple of times in different spaces. My first awareness was actually when I got a very specific third eye headache, when I was first trying to decide a long time ago if I was going to leave teaching or not. And I just kept consistently getting it, but I also was getting so overwhelmed every time I stepped into that school building. And I was trying all different modality, meditation, and I started to get Reiki, journaling, eating better, working out. Like I was doing all the things that I was told were the things to better navigate my day-to-day experience, but like those just went out the window every time I went into that school building, every time I went into that classroom. And so, yeah, I think about those days where I didn't have any of these tools at all, and just like 100% overwhelmed by by systems, by all the bodies, by all the needs. And what I started to learn as well is not only energetic things were happening, but how much systemically or conditions I was playing out of. I was overgiving in many different ways, in many aspects of my life. I didn't have very solid boundaries in general, let alone energetic boundaries of like, this is for me to do today. This is me to hold for you. This is for me to hold today versus, no, this isn't my role. This isn't my thing to hold. And so my journey with these tools and in this class and building community and having you and having others to lean on is just that continued permission to slow down and continued permission to start to open up to what is beyond what we have been told is the right things to know or the right things to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And so now like you said, now I know that I get left ear itches at certain points and has a certain message for me. I know now when I am speaking to someone and like there's some sort of truth bomb that has been shared, like I get a full like tingle up my spine. Mm-hmm. Like there are tangible energetic things that I can now name, and I've consistently experienced that, and I've been able to with the training and with the tools to start to decipher my truth of what that is, that what kind of information is coming in, or whose information is that coming in. And sometimes it's not mine, but it's a little whisper of the universe, whether I believe it's an angel or whether I believe it's, there's lots of ways to interpret it, but to start to really let some of that sift through and give it the due diligence that it deserves. Mm-hmm. And that is information that, again, in our society, especially as folks in femme bodies, or cis women bodies, that we've in many ways over history been told, like, don't listen to that. That's not real. That's not important. You don't know what you're talking about, when actually we know exactly what we're sensing, feeling, knowing, seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been something I've been thinking about lately too. I've been such a sponge of groups,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm in, like, now I've chosen this role of facilitator and teacher. But I was navigating men's feelings in a room since I was two, since I was
Yeah.
born, essentially. And like, even those, like, that bit of having to be hypersensitive or hyper aware of the space, there was some development there that is interesting to consider, right? Like, it's important because I knew things. I knew dynamics that were happening between the adults in the room that I couldn't give words for. And now, as a facilitator, there's that too, of like, oh, I can trust that, like, if there's a sense of resistance in the room, or if there's a sense, like, all of a sudden I'm feeling a little anxious, like, that is what's happening in the space. It's not always just me. And so that's, again, information for me to be able to navigate as a facilitator, as a teacher, and name that. Or now the new layer is I get to do my own energy work within myself to kind of move that. I don't even have to, like, name it, but sometimes that's a good facilitator move, but that's a side note. But just that, yeah, it's just really, it's really cool to be that much more present to
Mm-hmm.
myself and to my body, permission for emotions in new ways that I never really had. And I think that's in some of the other spaces that I'm in, just the need for that for adults. Honestly, a lot of us skipped that social emotional learning and like jumped into some pretty like not useful patterns of how to be in relationship with each other. And there's a ton of unlearning that is necessary to be really intentional about. And this class and these tools are just another layer in addition to your toolbox
Mm-hmm.
to navigate the world. So it's not like, don't stop ever going to therapy, or don't stop calling your friend, or don't, like, but it only enhances,
Yeah.
it only supports, it only helps make sense of those moments where none of it makes sense,
Yeah.
other than it is a divine astrological whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives you some great tools to have, again, like I said, seniority over that, of like, nothing makes sense. Nothing outside of me is giving me answers. How can I come within and find some sort of knowingness
Yep.
that brings calmness to my system, even if I don't
Yep.
like it? And that's
Yep.
the thing about intuition. I actually shared this great video the other day, where the woman was talking about relationship anxiety. And she's like, does your anxiety dress up like your intuition? And I loved that, because I see that a lot with clients and students where they're like, I don't know if this is my intuition or my fear. And my response to that is, if it feels scary to you, it's probably not your intuition.
Yep.
Yes, our intuition will tell us things that we don't like, but our body is calm when we receive that intuitive knowingness, in a sense.
Woo!
Yeah. But then the fear gets, oh my God, I felt calm. And then the fear starts to get revved up again.
Yes.
And so that's another part that we're teaching you here, is you get the intuitive knowingness. And then how do you work with the further extension of that, whether it's on top of it or underneath it, that's triggering that fear or that anxiety.
Right.
And then some of the tools that we speak of are unmatching. So unmatching energy. So whether that's, I'm feeling the anxiety in the room, like you said, Marin, how can I unmatch from that anxiety? Because I don't have really much anxiety about this, or maybe I do, but how can I unmatch from it? But it can even be physical, right? So I have a headache and I'm really matched into this story of how painful it is, and I'm suffering because I'm perpetuating that story in my brain, and I'm in so much resistance to my body. How can I just a little bit energetically unmatch from the pain? Shift my frequency. And I don't really believe in like higher vibe, lower vibe.
Nope.
It's just learning how to play in the waves
Yep.
and shifting things and unmatching. And our whole experience
Yep.
changes. And so that's kind of why we called it the Psychic Self Healer Program, because we're tuning into this unseen aspect of the world that, like Marin said, we've been trained to not pay attention to, not believe, not trust, but B, it's so life changing when we do.
Yeah.
So we want to give all y'all permission and tools to shift your reality in a way that's not really taught in the
Yep.
mainstream. And it's trusting too your knowingness and not letting other people invalidate that as well. This is just a simple, super basic story or experience that I had, but last summer our air conditioning stopped working and my partner was like, oh my gosh, I gotta call the HVAC guy. And I was like, I just had this knowingness. I was like, I think it's the filter. He's like, it is not the filter. A filter would not cause the AC to come. And I was like, okay, whatever you think. So he called the HVAC guy. The HVAC comes and he comes up from the crawl space. He's like, your filter is so clogged. He's like, you need to, when was the last time you guys changed this? And we're like, we just have to change the filter. He's like, yep, it caused everything to ice and freeze because no air was passing through because of the filter. And I, not in my ego, but I just kind of had this little internal validation of like, I have no idea how I knew it was a filter, but I had this ping. And of course, my partner was stuck in his big fear picture of our whole HVAC system is broken. We have to replace the furnace. And I didn't engage in his story. I just let him have his story. I had spoken what I knew to be true. And then we investigated and I got validated. And again, that doesn't always happen. I'm not always right.
Right.
But that is a simple example of how this intuitive knowingness came in. I don't know where it came from. I shared it. Someone else went into their own fear, and I could have easily taken that on. And I just chose not to. And I chose to be in like, let's wait and see. And, had it unfolded a different way, then we would have dealt with it and it would have been okay.
Yeah.
But that's just a really basic example of how our intuition can give us a knowingness and you're not sure where it comes from. And so with
Yeah.
these tools, you not only learn to feel better, clear energy that's not yours, unmatch, but you also learn to trust. I have so many people who are like, I'm seeing angel numbers everywhere. What does it mean? Or what does the buzzing in my ear mean? Um, why do I feel horrible when I go to concerts? I love music, but I feel like I got steamrolled when I go to a concert. It's energy.
Yep.
And really, being psychic is simply to me being attuned to the world of energy, the unseen world of energy. And everything's energy. Our spirits are energy, our bodies are energy, our minds are energy, our emotions are energy. And so once we hold that and get curious about it and learn some ways to play with it, whew, it's pretty cool.
Really fun.
Yeah.
And then you get a
Yeah.
group of folks who are starting to experience
Yes.
similar things, or like you can compare and be like, oh, I saw it this way, and then the other person's like, no, I heard it, or I smelled it this way, or like it shows up in colors. So like to get to even start to lean into that there are different ways to interact with or quote unquote see energy, that can be really fun and validating as well.
Totally. And I think that's another benefit to this program. It's live with a group of people. A lot of folks who are beginning their self-healing journey tend to start feeling alone because they're changing and growing. So whether your self-healing journey has been through therapy, other avenues of spirituality, whatever it is, you know, it's this common theme. I feel alone. I feel like I'm losing people because we change and we grow and other people are stuck where they're stuck. And this live training is so fun and validating because you see similar things, like Marin said, but you're building a community
Yep.
of people who are going through a similar thing. They're growing and everybody's really excited. Like, oh my gosh, this is so cool when I look at that intuitively or read that energy and you saw that and you saw this. And to be able to share the challenges and the growth, but also the really fun, validating experiences you're having is so powerful. So this live group training just is like, ugh, and I've seen groups of people go through this for years now. I've been teaching it since 2008, and just the community that forms and the cohorts that go together, everybody comes together for a reason. I feel like there's never an accident. They have similar things that they're working on and growing through. and the love that forms between these groups and the lifelong connections. I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about all the different cohorts that have gone through together, and I can reflect on how much they all just like love and adore and continue to support each other. So it's a really wonderful experience in that regard too.
Yeah, because yeah, it becomes. I mean, it's mostly been women in the circles, and so there
Mm-hmm.
is that, like, if you like that experience, whether it's sound baths or yoga, like that, you come
Mm-hmm.
together or in circles with women in general. It's just then it's got that other layer of energy of reading it, of looking at certain themes, but you essentially get a healing every week,
Yeah.
which is so great. But I want to pinpoint something that you shared that I believe really sets us apart as well, right? Like, there's a lot of people out here doing similar work that we're doing. There's a lot of discussion around what it means to raise consciousness, to move from the 3D to the 5D, to be in this spiritual realm, energetic realm, right? Like, there's a lot of story even around that, of what that looks like, how we engage with it, right? And for us, it's not ever about love and lighting through any of it. That, like, what we're saying, what we've seen in groups is because we've seen each other go through really hard shit over time. Like, it's just inevitable. Whether it's because of some of the energy healing we're doing, like that, like, you've seen all the memes, like to do energy healing, to do any sort of self-development work, right? Like, requires a lot of you,
Yeah.
and it requires a lot of you to show up in terms of and releasing, and it's a lot of work. There's a reason that folks don't necessarily engage in this, or there's a reason that maybe you right now are feeling a little tiny resistance to even considering that this might be a space for you.
Yeah.
That's all very normal, but also that, yeah, just want to iterate, like, we discuss and do not believe in bypassing any of this. We believe that these tools only help, as you said, the ebbs and flows, the waves of it, to continue to normalize that we are in these dense human bodies, but also that we believe that there is the unseen, that to be able to interact with, to give due diligence to the things that we've always been knowing but haven't had language for, haven't had like true validation or experience of. It's beyond. But that's like, I think of little 4-year-old Marin, like soaking up the room, and then now 42-year-old Marin soaking up the room, and the difference of that. And not only is that time, but that is this space of just really being able to understand what is the complexity of what I'm experiencing.
Totally. And another like benefit too, I think that a lot of other programs don't offer is that soaking up the room concept, right? So I'll just give an example. When I was a single mom, 16 years ago, I would go to single mom support groups. And I thankfully had these tools, but I wasn't always engaged because I was in mom land, engaged in the tools as much as I should have been. And I would leave those groups feeling worse than when I came in because, yeah, we were all there to support each other, but everyone's sharing their traumas and dramas to be heard and seen, which is important. But me energetically soaking up that, I'd leave and I'd be like, oh my God, I feel so hopeless right now, or despair, or sad. And thankfully, I could have tools and clear it afterwards. But a lot of groups don't offer that. So if you're going to groups where a lot of people are sharing and growing and healing, there may be a tendency to soak up the room, if you will. And, that's the foundation of our work, is we're first and foremost teaching you how to not soak up the room.
Yeah.
And then you get to be in this group, this community, to traverse through this engagement with spiritual knowingness and your personal body pain stories that you're releasing. You're less likely to walk out of there like, oh my God, I took on the person next to me stuff. You might feel your own stuff, because that's what we're encouraging, is like, you got to feel your stuff. Here's some tools to move through it and authentically feel it and learn and grow. But there's a lessening in how much you're likely to take on other people's stuff. And we even teach you ways like, oh my gosh, this person next to me has a very similar story. What
Mm.
a gift that I get to see myself within them.
Yeah.
And how do I move through that and not get stuck in the match?
Hmm.
So it's really cool in that sense too.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like it's a combination of like what we're more and more hearing people talk about in terms of trauma and somatics, and the body keeps a score, right? Like we're learning more and more that so much can actually get stuck in our body, and so it makes sense that energetically, like
Mm-hmm.
one, we can move it, two, we can talk like there are different ways to navigate or to kind of process, metabolize it, and energy work is one of those. And I guess coming back to the what I started to share in terms of my third eye headache, I now know that I was in this transition mode of trying to make a decision. And I kept invalidating that what was really true for me was coming up of like, yeah, I'm leaving teaching. People in my life have been lifelong teachers, that you stay as a teacher and you retire, like that is the correct way to be successful and live, right? But all of a sudden I'm getting this information of like, no, this is not the space for you. But I've been doing it for 10 years, but it's a safety net, it's all of these things, all the reasons would come up for me of why I shouldn't do it. But but what I now know also, though, like what was overriding was my own intuition saying, nah, this is not it. There is more for you beyond this. And there's a reason that you've experienced this. And I did eventually go, this was the first time I interacted with someone who did Reiki or same as energy healing. And it was the only thing that could really relieve the intensity of that certain type of headache. I've gotten other headaches before, but this was it was a slight different one. And I've never had it before, or I've never had it again. But now, 8 years later, I can look back at it with the perspective and experience I've had in this class and with these tools, and can validate like, oh yeah, I was just like really, really ignoring my own information, my own intuition.
Yeah, and the way you built that discernment tool,
Yeah,
right? Usually we recognize these things in retrospect,
yeah,
but now you have that
yeah,
awareness. And so moving forward, you're like, oh, there's that headache
yeah,
again. What part of my life is in transition, or what decision am I avoiding making? Like you can start to get curious with new levels of certainty.
yeah.
And so
Or in
again,
different versions of it, right? Oh,
yes.
now maybe my shoulder that like it just won't go away, but I keep trying to ignore it. And I've
Yeah.
gone to PT and I've stretched it this way. Well, maybe eventually it does get to a point of like, okay, I got to talk to
Yeah.
Stacia, or I got to call, like I got to have someone check energetically also what is the
Yeah.
significance of that.
Totally. And so it's so huge to be able to have that gift of knowing there's another way
Yep.
to receive movement and change and help beyond the constant effort at trying to solve it physically.
Yeah.
Because again, we can't name enough that the physical support, the physical attention, the emotional work is all important,
Yep.
but adding in the layer of energetic spiritual awareness in the unseen is like the final piece in the puzzle. I feel like that
Yes.
really shifts things for people, and they're like, wow, that's the piece I was missing for so long.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I feel like we've been chatting for a long
I
time, some really
know.
juicy, good stuff.
Woo! Just
Yeah.
flow today.
But yeah, just to give it a shout out one more time, it starts April 3rd, Wednesdays, 10 a.m. to noon Mountain Time. It's a 6-month cohort, and Marin will be teaching it. And then beyond that, people love it. And so if you're loving it, we'll have continuing options for you. But please join us. We have this early bird rate up right now, and we will put the link to that in the comments if you want to learn more, read more, get curious about signing up. But we'd love to have you join us. And anything else you want to end on, Marin?
If you have questions, reach out, send me a message. We had a couple of info sessions the last couple of weeks, but happy to get on a call and answer questions. If you heard anything that resonated in here and you just want to ask us, is this
Yeah.
right, or what is this? We're here for all the validation, and would love for you to join in some way.
Yep. It's totally, sometimes you just need someone to talk to. And so we're here for you, like Marin said. And I want to just say one more piece that if you think you're not psychic, I'd get curious about that because everybody has the possibility and potential to open this up. It's like a muscle.
Yeah.
And we've got some techniques that are pretty simple for you to learn it. And you might be blown away.
You just might change your life.
Awesome.
All right.
Excellent. Thanks,
Thank
Marin.
you. Bye, everyone.